Social services sent me back to my mother when I was 17 years old. So at 13 years old, I ran away from home. I ended up living on the streets, and 14 and a half, found a job and was able to at least provide myself with a roof over my head and food sometimes. Sometimes it was pay rent or eat or pay rent. And I always opted for paying rent and going a little hungry or a lot hungry, whatever the case was. By the time I was 17, I had a baby, and social services was flagged because I was a minor. This was in 1983 in Columbus, Ohio. When I ran away, I started in Miami, but because of being trafficked for labor and a bunch of different circumstances, I ended up in Ohio. So as social services comes in and they're getting my history and like they want my mother's phone number and all these different things because they can't find a report that shows that I was a runaway, even though I told them that I was. And the social worker kind of looked at me like that was unusual. I remember the vibe there, and I could tell she even was like feeling sorry for me. Yet at the same time, her primary job was to send me back to my mother. I don't know why. But I do know that she was pressuring me in such a way that made me feel like if I didn't go back to my home, I could possibly have my baby taken away, even though I had done nothing wrong and I had a place to live. I didn't have a job or anything like that, but I had a place to live. So as all of this is unfolding, they put me on the phone with my mother, who immediately, "I love you. Are you okay? I miss you." I'm like, "You love me?" I've never heard words like this from her, except for to hoover me in. And "are you okay?" is definitely something that I never heard from her. She was pouring it on, all the syrup, and just so happy and all these different things. And what more would I want to hear? So of course I agree, I'm going to go back. I end up flying to Miami to kind of pick up my stepfather because my mother is in Montreal. And then we fly to Montreal. They were living in Miami at the time, but my brother was getting ready to have his engagement party. So there was a whole thing going on. And here's me, 17 years old, after living on the streets, after all the things I went through in my home that put me on the streets, a completely traumatized little girl coming into the family again who's saying that they love me. I thought for sure they forgot about me. I genuinely, from every part of my being, believed that they had forgotten about me. Because when I used to run away, my mother would tell me that nobody would remember me, that I was insignificant. And I bought that. I had every reason to believe her and no reason not to. So I get into the family fold and everybody's like, "Oh, I can't believe what you did to the family. How could you do this? You better never do this again." Nobody's asking me how I survived, how I am, if I'm okay. No. I am the devil. I am this horrific person that destroyed our family single-handedly through all that I put them through from being a missing child and the years that they devoted to looking for me and all of these different things. In this time, my aunt, the good one, the favorite one, is also trying to figure out how to keep me there because she knows what my mother put me through. She doesn't say, but she knows. So she asked me, what do I want to do? And of course I was like, well, maybe not of course, but I was wanting to go to school. I wanted to complete my education. And she said, well, if you live here, you have to go to therapy. We need to like deal with some stuff and you have to go to school. So that's perfect. And I was so happy. All through my childhood, the only place I ever actually wanted to live was with this aunt because she was the only one who showed me what felt like genuine kindness. My mother was like, hell no. Marnie's coming back to Florida. She belongs with me. I haven't seen her. She's my daughter, blah, 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 blah. And I have no way of saying anything to my mother that would allow me to stay with the aunt where I wanted to be. I was terrified of her. I grew up terrified of her. So I went back to Miami. This daughter that she missed so much, 9 months after I went missing, My room was turned into a guest room. My belongings were given away, but for a small suitcase of some items that wouldn't even be meaningful for me. She just like shoved some things in there. And I think she even put things in there that she knew would bother me, just in case. And my coming back meant that she was no longer the mother of a missing child, which is something that she reveled in. Like, oh, woe is me. And now I'm back. So how does she navigate that? How does she capitalize on my being back? For a solid week, she stayed in her room, just devastated, like doesn't know what to do with me. And she can't be a grandmother to a small baby. She can't handle an infant crying or anything like that. The whole time we're in Montreal, she is the doting mother and grandmother. And now, behind closed doors, once again, she is exactly who she's always been. My stepfather comes in to my room and says, listen, I think you can see this is not really working out. Oh, by the way, this is me and my little baby. And that was probably when my daughter was about a month old, I would say. Anyway, back to my stepfather coming in. Oh, and my mother cut my hair that way. That's the first thing she did when I got back. Nothing ever changes. And so my stepfather says to me, it's not working out. Your grandfather has some apartments and, you're going to go and stay there. And this way it'll be better for everyone and a whole thing. And I'm just like nodding my head. I'm a bobblehead. That's all I am at this point. I'm a shell of a person who's been traumatized her entire life, and I'm a bobblehead. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And we'll take care of things. And, you can work at the drugstore. My stepfather owned drugstores at the time. I'll help you to get like your school stuff together. He was a really lovely man. And I know that when he was delivering this news, this was not easy for him. So I go and I'm living in the villa, and somewhere during this time, I'm trying to go to therapy. I'm going to do the things my aunt told me to do, because my aunt, in my mind, and she did, have my best interest at heart. And my aunt, I think on the back end, was pressurizing my mother to make sure that this happened. So the first therapy session, there were only 2. My mother is sitting there with me, and this is bad on the therapist. And my mother is eviscerating me. My mother she's always been a problem. Look at what she did. She ran away. Look what she put the family through. And now she's back with a baby, and she's always been boy crazy. I know she's been around now. Like, there's so many different things, and really, really annihilating my character. And this goes on for about 15 minutes, and I'm looking down at the ground because I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm certainly not going to defend myself. I don't even know what that looks like. The therapist finally has my mother leave the room, and I sit there in silence, and the therapist is talking to me. I'm giving her maybe 1-word answers. I'm not talking about my mother. I'm not talking about anything, because now I am just terrified, like doubly terrified. I was already terrified. The next session, my mother goes to drop me off for it. And in the car, before I leave, she's like, the therapist told me everything that you said about me, and will continue to do so because of the fact that I am paying for this. And I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't talk. Like, I said yes and no, but I didn't talk. And maybe I did say something. Maybe something leaked out. That whole gaslighting and self-doubt and everything that goes along with that. So I go into that therapy meeting. I don't talk, not even a yes, not a no, not a nothing. And what does my mother do? Oh, well, you're not cooperating with the therapist. And that's the one thing she would have known. The therapist would have told her that. I was 17, that, I wasn't maybe talking or something like that. And made it seem like to the family I didn't want to go, and therapy ended there. I desperately wanted to go. Now I desperately want to get my GED. At least that I can accomplish. My stepfather helps me get the book that I need to study. He even helps me with some of the studying. My last grade of formal completion is grade 8 at this point. I had some grade 9 coursework mixed in there, which was really helpful in taking my GED. And everything is set up. My mother is going to take care of the baby, of my baby. So wonderful of her, right? Of her 17-year-old daughter that she put on the streets in the first place. But my mother's going to take care of my baby. No, it wasn't her responsibility, but whatever. We're not even going to go into that. I would walk through fire if one of my children needed me, but that's another story. My mother's going to take care of the baby, and I'm going to, take 3 buses to go take my test. My stepfather's like, well, I mean, the testing center is like 20, 25 minutes away. He's like, no, I'm going to drive you. And that way you can take the test and I'll pick you up later. And my mother, nope, I need you to help with the baby. I can't be here alone with an infant. Okay, fine. I'm fine. I don't care. I've survived the streets. I want to get my high school education completed. I want to go to university. I want to build a life for myself and my daughter that's not dependent on anyone, in spite of what my mother has taught me to be, which is a dependent, a parasite, like she is. So the night before the test, my mother calls. I can hear my stepfather in the background. I can't take your daughter. She says her name, but I don't share her name on social media. And I'm like, what? And she goes, I can't take her. I can't do it. No reason why, not I'm sick, not this, not that. I hear my stepfather in the background. Yes, we can. It's fine. Nope, can't do it. Click. So I get off the phone and I have a complete meltdown. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I have a little baby. It's going to be at least a month before I can take another test, because there's not like this constant testing center kind of thing where they give the test every week. Maybe I can find another testing center to take it sooner. There's a timeline here. I want to take the test and I want to go to school after that. Oh, and incidentally, within all of this, my mother has had me sign a document to sue my biological father for the back payments of child support that were suspended because I was a missing child. She pocketed the majority of that money, all but maybe $500. And she had me sign it under the belief that I would be able to use that money to go to school and support my daughter. So after I have my meltdown, I decide that I'm not going to let this stop me, that I'm going to at least try to get that test done. So I wake up extra early the next morning. I take the buses that I need to take with this gigantic book and a stroller. And back then, those strollers were massive. Those, remember the old Graco strollers? That when you folded them, you tried not to entangle your arm in it and get it all pinched and stuff. They weighed, I can't even remember what they weighed, but they were super heavy. So I have baby, I have stroller, I have books, I have the whole 9 yards. And I get down to the testing center and I beg them to let me take the test. Lucky for me, the test proctor was just the kindest human being, made like no big deal about it. I took the test. He helped me with my little girl, with my little baby, the whole time, rocking the stroller. He even held her. I mean, she was adorable, but, not his job. Apparently not my mother's job either. And was just so wonderful in such a way that I wasn't even distracted by it, right? I could focus on what I needed to get done. And that's how I got my high school diploma. That's how I finished my GED. If you take anything away from this story, I don't want it to be so much what my mother did to me, because this was her pattern of behavior throughout my whole life. If she could sabotage me, she would. And to understand her reasoning behind that, what these types of people do to their children, it's about the picture that they painted. So if I succeed, she's outed as a liar. Maybe down the road she'll take credit for it, but at that point in time, her way of getting attention and being the victim of me was me being this horrible waste of space, damaged goods person. And my graduating high school on my own, in spite of her, goes against her narrative. Back to, if you take one thing away from this story, here's the message I want you to get from this. The only person who can really stand in your way in this world is you. I could have made a different decision. Maybe the test proctor would not have allowed me to have my baby there. I would have gone back. I would have figured it out. Don't let somebody else control your outcome. Seek therapy. Seek the help you need. Look for improvement. I mean, I had no money. I had nothing. We find ways to make it happen. If you want something bad enough, you can achieve it. I don't care what's going on in your life other than to be like, I'm sorry that you're going through something horrible. Do not let that something horrible define where you're going to be always. Let that something horrible remind you that you have nowhere to go but up, and just start to baby step it towards whatever it is that you want to achieve. I've had so many horrific things even since then go on in my life. And the one thing that has never stopped for me is my belief in that I can do better. If I can just hold on and figure it out, I can do better for myself. At that time, I was really doing it for my daughter. I didn't know that I believed to show up for me. And that's something that I've learned throughout the years. My children were my driving force, but our children shouldn't be our driving force. The knowledge that we are worthy, that should be our driving force. And when we do that and when we move ahead, even fake it till you make it. And I hate that saying, but if you don't have that belief in yourself, then fake it till you make it. Go through the steps to provide yourself with something better. Because from the bottom of my heart, truly, there's one thing I know. You deserve something better.